If the rest of you will come forward, and that way we'll have you up here so you can get a microphone, and we're going to take questions in. Here's this one.
Hello.
Yes, that one. We'll get a couple of mics out in the audience here. Has anyone got a question for any of the candidates? Whoa, okay. Jim Thompson.
I'm Jim Thompson, for those who don't know me. I'd like to invite any of you to respond who choose to. If you could have one free pass, if you could make one binding decision as you enter your new term on the board that you think would be the most important change that you could make, and you could just wave your magic wand and that one change were made, what would that change be?
My one pass would be electronic medical records. I have seen the advantage as I personally, as my mother, as my husband, have been patients at other hospitals, and how the continuity of care that is supported by electronic medical records is just phenomenal. Now, as Larry said, some of the new technology is not inexpensive, but it is efficient because it allows doctors to practice more efficiently. It reduces medical records, medical errors. It just provides continuity of care for patients. So that would be my number one.
You know, when you ask that question, you said anything. So I guess you're throwing it up to fantasy also. Yeah, the obvious thing would be that for us to put hospitals back where they used to be. The number one goal, taking care of patients, taking care of them the best of our ability, and being able to do that in the way we have been taught in medical school to do. That would be my number one wish, okay? That's not possible, and it'll never be possible. My son's a physician, and it won't be possible, I don't think, in his lifetime either. So if I had to ask anything, I just think it's what I said a while ago, is that I just want us to really establish a great line of communication between hospital and physicians, so we can keep that ultimate goal, like she was saying a while ago, of what we're all about, and that's making people well in our county and do it in the best, most efficient, and most fiscally responsible ways possible.
Suzanne and Bill are right in that regard, and increasing the ability to have good communication, the electronic records, and absolutely does that. I'm in an office now that has that ability, and it's phenomenal what it can do. But I think what I would be trying to do at this point right now would be trying to bring in and get more good quality physicians. Right now the hospital has a huge need to increase its revenue in a profitability side. We need more fee-for-service and less welfare or indigent care. We need bills that we need to pay our bills. And so anything that we can do that will increase the revenues to the hospital and allow that district to go on without increasing the taxes and still provide excellent service is on board for me.
You shouldn't have asked that question, Jim, because you know I'm going to tell you. Eliminate the competition. That's the simplest thing. It's on every street. It's popping up everywhere around that you can possibly think. And every time, and they've been telling me to keep my mouth shut, but I'm not going to keep my mouth shut. Every time that someone opens a hospital, medical facility of any type in this county, and those dollars go that way, that affects every citizen in this community, bar none. Back to the comment about Ms. Baxter about the medical records. About 4 or 5 years ago, if I remember right, we put in a system called Meditech. Coming to this day of, obviously when we did it, we did not know that it was going to be anything like what it is today. But there is a bill, well, not a bill, but a stimulus program that has been designed for hospitals and medical care facilities. If they have certain things in place by a certain time, And I believe it's this year, if I'm not mistaken, sometime, I think about October, if I remember right. Donna can probably correct me on this part. But if we have that in place, we are going to be able to receive a large amount of that stimulus money by the medical records that she's talking about. We've been trying to get that done really years ago when we did this thing. We really didn't know for sure what we were doing, but everybody told us that's what we needed to do. And fortunately, we've had to buy a piece that fit into this thing in order to do this thing, because everything is going to be done from the federal government. It's going to be tied to medical records, no matter what it is.
Yes, sir, and thank you for the question. My response to that would be breaking it down in two parts, one being a short-term and the other being a long-term. The short-term, for me personally, as a goal as a director, would be to be a voice of the community to management, and then to provide as much support as possible to management to achieve many of these items that the other candidates have mentioned. Short-term goal, the adherence to the meaningful use clause and achieving the stimulus funds, as Mr. Kelty spoke of. Long-term being a very efficient, caring facility here for the long term for the community. Thank you for the question.
Anyone else got a question?
Since Washington often has a different interpretation of what our needs are, how can you best get local word to the politicians? I mean, I know we can write to ours in the state, and we can even write to the senators, but you know, when they have doctors come up in their lab coats and makes it appear as though they are in favor of what's being proposed, when really they never get to speak. You don't even know if their being there is actually a proper representation of their own feelings. How do we, in a little town, how do we get our voice to Washington so those who speak up there, they're speaking for themselves? Maybe they're not speaking for us at all. I guess I'm asking, how do we influence our politicians to act on our behalf so that you do get the kind of control, Dr. Dietz, that you're talking about, that gets to come back and be local?
First of all, let me say that this is one of the ways you do it, what we're doing here tonight, what we did with the Tea Party, and it's the real thing that affects politicians is the vote. So getting out at the vote is what's going to be important to solve the thing you're talking about. From a medical perspective, there's a lot of different medical organizations with different medical specialists in them, and every one that I know of has a PAC organization, Political Active Committee, and those guys in the white coat you mentioned are just the very tip of what has been in the physician realm of politics that's been out there, because we obviously have a very personal contact and interest about what's going on. But that's a hard question, you know. How do you get anybody to do what you know is right to do, but you're not going to be able to get it done? And so we end up having to play the games. You know, sometimes we don't have a good choice. We have to pick the lesser of two bad choices that'll provide the service that we all want to be best for our group. But be vocal. I don't know anything else to say. Be vocal. And the way you do it in a democratic society is with your vote.
Thank you for the question. I was just going to respond just like Dr. Dietz. However, of the 3 meetings that I have been involved with on the hospital board, there's been very, very little public turnout to these meetings, and they are open to the community. So I would think that everyone is welcome to attend a hospital board meeting if they are interested in knowing what's going on with their tax dollars and their county hospital.
I think that all of us are aware that probably the greatest upheaval of voter apathy has been stirring for the last 36 months or longer in this country. And I guess that I kind of thought that maybe that everybody was complacent enough that they were satisfied with what was going on. But fortunately, I believe that I have seen what I feel like is going to be the will of the people, that they are fed up of a lot of things. And about the only way is, like Bill said, that you can do it, that I know of, is to express your vote in relationship to the candidates that you feel like is going to express your views you possibly can.
Unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever be able to go back to the way it was with the physician controlling all the avenues of care. I wish it could be that way. With that said, I echo what all the other candidates have said, and that's turn out the vote, support your candidate, be vocal.
I would just like to add, and I certainly agree with what the other candidates have said. As I said, I've been in special education for 30 years, and we're used to this. One of the things that I harp on to my students who are wannabe special ed teachers is you've got to be politically involved because the laws are being made by people who are not educators. But I think our administrators and board members have an obligation to educate legislators and let them know, because they're getting a lot of information from a lot of different sources, and it may be the man in the white coat or woman in the white coat on television who was taken out of context, as you said. Back to the special ed analogy, we look at states who have differences in services and states that have very, very active, involved parent support groups, and those are the states who get more done voter-wise, and it's exactly what Dr. Dietz said. It's educating the people, and as Joseph said, and then getting the people involved. I think we have to know what's going on in Washington, we have to be involved, and in Austin, and we have to help those people there make decisions that support us the best. We have to tell them what we need and what we want, and the ramifications of what they are deciding and what they're doing.
I'm Pat Chase. Mine's a fiscal question. Last year, the millage went up about 20+%. Each one of you, is it your philosophy to roll that back? And if so, what would be your approach to get that done?
I'll guarantee you, Pat, if we get a chance to roll it back, I'd be the first one that signed on, because I'll guarantee you when the tax bill comes around, a lot of people pay it in certain amounts, a lot of people pay it in large amounts, and I'll assure you that I paid my fair share, and it was a tough thing to decide upon when we were doing this. But the only thing that we had involved in this thing was there were things that happened that was, as I mentioned in my earlier statement, that was completely out of our control. If you don't have patients to come to your hospital for care, there's no way that you can get those services that's out there. Now, that's one of the things that I would say, if we get to a situation whereby that is a possibility, I will assure you that I would vote to repeal it.